The war room of the High Council fell silent as the holographic display showed another star system turning dark. That made 16 systems lost to the void swarm in just 3 months. Commander Hay stood among the other military leaders, her blue-tinted skin pale with worry. They were losing this war, and everyone knew it. "We need allies," Emperor Vex declared, his voice heavy with defeat. "We cannot win this alone." "But who would help us?" one of the council members asked. "Every species in the known galaxy is either part of our empire or too weak to matter." Hay stepped forward. She had studied the star maps for weeks, looking for any advantage. "There is one species we haven't considered," she said quietly, "the humans." The room erupted in laughter. Humans were a joke in the Empire. They lived on the edge of the galaxy, on a single planet, barely capable of basic space travel. They had been visited once, 70 years ago, and deemed too primitive to bother with. "The humans," Lord laughed loudest of all. "Those weak creatures, what could they possibly offer us?" Hay had expected this reaction. They have stayed isolated for decades. What if they've been building up their forces? What if they're stronger than we think? "Impossible," another council member scoffed. "They're farmers and builders. They have no warrior culture." But Emperor Vex was desperate. Desperate leaders consider desperate options. "What do you propose, Commander?" "A marriage alliance," Hay said, though the words felt like ash in her mouth. "I will marry one of their representatives. In exchange, they provide military support. Even if they're weak, more bodies on the front lines will help." The council debated for hours, but in the end, desperation won. Hay was sent to Earth with a proposal that would change everything. The human leaders met her in a simple building in a city called Seoul. Hay expected primitives, but the humans seemed calm, too calm. They listened to her proposal without the awe she expected from a lesser species meeting their superiors. "You want one of us to marry you," the human ambassador, a woman named One, said slowly. "And in return you want military aid." "Yes," Hay confirmed. "This is a great honor for your species. You will be connected to the Empire." One smiled in a way that Hay couldn't quite read. "Give us a day to discuss this." The humans chose a man named Min. He was from the Mars colonies, they explained. He worked as an agricultural engineer, helping design farming systems for space stations. When Hay met him, she felt a wave of disappointment. He was tall by human standards but seemed so ordinary. He wore simple clothes and had dirt under his fingernails from working in gardens. His smile was gentle, his manner quiet. "This is your warrior?" she asked One privately. "He's our choice," One replied. "We think you'll find him suitable." Min spoke to her that evening before the wedding preparations began. "I know this isn't what you wanted," he said in surprisingly good language. "I'll try not to be a burden." Hay felt a pang of guilt. He seemed kind, but he was still a human, still beneath her. "Just stay out of the way during military matters," she said, more harshly than she intended. He nodded and went back to reading a book about history. The wedding was broadcast across the entire empire. It was meant to show humanity's submission, their acceptance of superiority. Hay wore her military dress uniform, medals shining on her chest. Min wore a simple suit that human diplomats had prepared for him. He looked uncomfortable but endured the ceremony with quiet dignity. The rituals were designed to be overwhelming. There were tests of strength, displays of military power, speeches about the empire's greatness. Through it all, Min stood calmly, never complaining, never showing fear. Hay found herself slightly impressed by his composure, even as she him. The wedding feast was worse. Nobles gathered to see the primitive human who had married into their empire. They treated Min like a curiosity, a pet to be examined. He endured their condescending questions with polite answers. "Tell me, human," Lord boomed, already drunk on wine. "Can your people even lift our weapons, or are they too heavy for your weak bones?" The other nobles laughed. Min simply smiled. I'm sure they're very impressive weapons, he said diplomatically. Let's test your strength, declared. He placed a ceremonial stone on the table. It was a tradition. Crushing the stone showed warrior prowess. Crushed his own stone easily, the fragments scattering. Your turn, human. Everyone watched. Hay felt embarrassed for Min but also curious. Would he try and fail? Would he refuse? Min looked at the stone, then at, I'm just a farmer, he said gently. I don't think I should compete with warriors. I might embarrass myself. The nobles roared with laughter, patted Min's shoulder too hard, nearly knocking him forward. At least you know your place, human. Hay felt her face flush with second-hand shame. Her husband, had just backed down from a challenge in front of the entire nobility. But when she looked at Min, he didn't seem ashamed. He was calmly eating his dinner as if nothing had happened. That night in their new shared quarters aboard the flagship Eternal Radiance, Hay couldn't hold back. Why didn't you try? She demanded. You made yourself look weak. You made me look weak. Min was unpacking a small case. Inside were seeds and soil samples. I didn't want to make a scene at our wedding, he said simply. A scene? You let them humiliate you. He looked at her with those calm brown eyes. Does it matter what they think of me? Yes, you're my husband now. Your reputation reflects on me. Min nodded slowly. I'm sorry, I'll try to be more dignified in the future. He returned to organizing his seeds. If it's all right with you, I'd like to start a small garden in the unused cargo bay. Growing things helps me think. Hay stared at him. Here they were in the middle of a galactic war and he wanted to plant vegetables. Do whatever you want, she said coldly. Just stay out of military operations. Of course, he agreed. As Hay lay in her separate sleeping chamber that night, she wondered what she had gotten herself into. Her people were dying by the thousands. The void swarm was consuming entire worlds, and Earth had sent her a gardener, a polite, quiet gardener who couldn't even crush a ceremonial stone. She had hoped for soldiers, for weapons, for something that could help turn the tide of war. Instead, she got Min and his seeds. It felt like humanity's final insult, sending their weakest as their representative. The marriage was supposed to bring hope. Instead, it just reminded Hay how alone the truly were. In the cargo bay, Min carefully planted his first seeds in the soil he'd brought from Mars. He worked in the higher gravity of the ship without any visible effort, his hands steady and sure. When he finished, he sat back and smiled. They have no idea, he whispered to himself in Korean, knowing no one could understand. No idea at all. Tomorrow would be interesting, but tonight he had a garden to tend. 3 weeks passed aboard the Eternal Radiance, and Min became a familiar sight in the corridors. The crew called him the gardener prince behind his back, watching with amusement as he tended his growing collection of plants in the cargo bay. He seemed harmless, always smiling, always polite, exactly what they expected from a human. Hay barely saw him. She was busy with military operations, planning defensive strategies against the void swarm's next attack. When they did cross paths, Min was usually carrying soil samples or reading data tablets. He never bothered her, never demanded attention. Part of her appreciated that. Another part felt guilty for how little effort she put into their marriage. One morning, Hay was walking through the engineering deck when she saw something strange. A massive supply crate had fallen and blocked a corridor. 3 engineers were struggling to move it, their muscles straining. They were strong by most species standards, but the crate was simply too heavy. Then Min appeared, carrying a watering can for his plants. Need help? He asked cheerfully. The engineers looked at him with barely concealed pity. No offense, human, but if we can't move it, you certainly can't. Min set down his watering can. Let me try. Before they could protest, he grabbed one end of the crate and lifted it, not with visible effort or strain, just lifted it like it was a piece of furniture. He moved it aside and smiled. There you go, have a good day. He picked up his watering can and walked away, leaving 3 shocked engineers staring after him. The story spread through the ship, but most dismissed it. Maybe the crate wasn't as heavy as it looked. Maybe the engineers were exaggerating. Humans were weak. Everyone knew that. One strange incident didn't change anything. But Hay started noticing other things. The ship's gymnasium had variable gravity settings for different species. Humans supposedly came from a low-gravity world. Yet she saw men walking through the high-gravity section without any protective gear, moving normally while even trained soldiers had to wear support suits in that area. When she asked him about it, he just shrugged. "I'm used to it, I guess. Mars has different gravity than Earth, so I trained in various levels growing up." That made sense, but something about his casual tone bothered her. Then there was the incident with the tactical displays. Hay was reviewing battle footage in the war room when Min wandered in. She was about to tell him this was restricted, but he spoke first. "Is that the engagement at Sector 7?" he asked, looking at the screens. "Yes, the battle we lost last week." She couldn't keep the bitterness from her voice. "We're trying to understand what went wrong." Min studied the displays for maybe 30 seconds. "Your shield alignment was off by 0.3 degrees on the port side. The swarm targeted that weakness. Also, you clustered your destroyers too tightly, made them vulnerable to the acid burst attacks, and your retreat vector put you in range of their long-distance weapons for 4 minutes longer than necessary." Hay stared at him. Her best tactical analysts had been studying this footage for a week and hadn't caught half of what he'd just listed. "How did you see all that so quickly?" "I've been reading military manuals," he said. "Your tactics are interesting, very traditional. The swarm adapts quickly to traditional approaches. And you think you know better." She didn't mean to sound so sharp, but his casual analysis of their defeat stung. Min held up his hands peacefully. "I didn't mean to offend. I should get back to my plants." But Hay couldn't let it go. "What would you have done differently?" He looked uncomfortable. "I'm just a farmer, I don't think." "Tell me." So he did. For 20 minutes, Min outlined tactical approaches that they had never considered, aggressive maneuvers that seemed reckless until he explained the math behind them, defensive formations that appeared weak but exploited swarm behavioral patterns. He spoke calmly, almost apologetically, as if he was embarrassed to be sharing his thoughts. Hay recorded everything. That night she brought it to the War Council. Admiral listened to her presentation, then laughed. Actually laughed. "You're taking military advice from a human farmer. Commander, I understand you're fond of your husband, but this is absurd." His analysis was correct, Hay insisted. Everything he identified in the battle footage was accurate. "Lucky guesses," Lord dismissed. "Or he's read our manuals and is regurgitating standard doctrine back at us." "These aren't standard tactics." "Enough," Emperor Vex interrupted. "We appreciate your enthusiasm, Commander, but we will not restructure our entire military strategy based on a human's opinion." Dismissed. Hay returned to her quarters feeling frustrated and confused. Min was in the common area, reading as usual. She sat down across from him. "They rejected everything," she said. "I expected that," he replied gently. "Doesn't it bother you? You were trying to help." Min set down his book. "Hey, can I ask you something? What do you know about Earth?" She frowned at the question. "It's a Class M planet. Low gravity, peaceful biosphere. Your people evolved there and never developed much beyond basic agriculture until you discovered space travel." He smiled sadly. "Is that what your records say?" "Yes." "Come with me." He stood and offered his hand. Surprised, she took it. He led her to his quarters and pulled up a data file on his personal terminal. "This is Earth." The images showed a world of impossible contrasts. Massive storms that could swallow entire cities. Temperature ranges that would kill most species. Predators with teeth and claws. Diseases that evolved as fast as they could be cured. Gravity that was Wait, Hay said, reading the numbers. This says Earth's gravity is nearly double what we thought. Your survey team measured wrong, Min explained. They didn't account for atmospheric pressure differences. Earth is a high-gravity world by galactic standards. But you walk around our ship like it's nothing. This ship's gravity is less than Earth's. It feels light to me. Hay scrolled through more data. Everything she knew about humans was wrong. Why didn't you tell us this? Min sat down heavily. Because humanity learned a long time ago that the galaxy fears what it doesn't understand. When the first survey team visited Earth, they saw our cities and farms. They didn't see our military. They didn't see what we're capable of. We let them believe we were weak because, honestly, we didn't trust you. We'd been watching the Empire expand, conquering species after species. We decided to stay hidden. But you came here, you married me. Earth's government decided it was time to reveal ourselves, but we wanted to do it slowly. I volunteered because, he paused, looking embarrassed, because I actually wanted to understand your culture. I'm not a soldier, Hay. I really am an agricultural engineer, but every human learns things as they grow up. Combat training, tactical thinking, survival skills. On Earth, you need those things just to live through childhood. Hay felt like the floor was tilting beneath her. What else haven't you told me? Before Min could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. The intercom crackled with urgent voices. Void swarm detected, multiple contacts, battle stations. Hay ran for the bridge. Behind her, she heard Min say something in Korean. She didn't understand the words, but his tone was calm. Too calm for someone about to face battle for the first time. On the bridge, chaos reigned. The swarm had ambushed them while they were escorting a refugee convoy. 6 swarm vessels against their 4-ship battle group. Shields up, Admiral commanded. Defensive formation Delta. Hay watched the tactical display. The formation was wrong. Min had explained why just hours ago, but no one had listened. She saw the swarm ships moving exactly as he'd predicted. She saw her own ships clustering together exactly as they shouldn't. The first destroyer exploded within minutes. Then the second. The third tried to retreat, but flew directly into a trap. "Get us out of here," screamed. The Eternal Radiance turned, engines straining. But they'd waited too long. The swarm was closing in. And Hay knew with horrible certainty that her husband had been right about everything. The Eternal Radiance shook violently as swarm weapons tore through the outer hull. Hay gripped her command station, watching their shields drop to critical levels. Around her, bridge officers shouted reports that all sounded like death sentences. Hull breach on decks 12 through 15. Port engine offline. Swarm boarding craft detected. Admiral's face had gone pale blue, the color of absolute terror. Seal the bridge. Pull all security forces back to protect command. What about the crew on those decks? Hay shouted. They're already dead, Commander. Hay felt rage burn through her fear. She'd served with those people, eaten with them, and was abandoning them without even trying to fight back. She slammed her fist on the console. I'm going down there. That's suicide. Then I'll die with my crew instead of cowering here. She grabbed her sidearm and ran for the exit. 2 of her personal guards followed without hesitation. The corridors were chaos. Crew members fled toward the safe zones while security teams set up defensive positions. But Hay had seen swarm drones before. Standard weapons barely slowed them down. Those security teams were brave, but they were about to die. She reached Deck 14 just as the first drones broke through. They looked like nightmares made metal and flesh, 6-legged creatures with razor claws and acid-dripping mandibles. The security team opened fire. Energy bolts hit the drones, scoring their armor, but they kept coming. Fall back, Hay ordered, firing her own weapon. She hit a drone in what passed for its head. It stumbled but didn't stop. 3 security officers went down screaming as drones tore through their armor like paper. More drones poured through the breach. Hay's guards pushed her back, trying to shield her. One guard fell, then the other. Hay kept firing until her weapon overheated. A massive elite drone, twice the size of the others, fixed its cluster of eyes on her. She was going to die, she knew it. The elite tensed to leap. And something grabbed it from behind. Min appeared like a ghost, moving faster than Hay could track. His hands, just his bare hands, gripped the elite drone's armored head. There was a horrible crunching sound. The drone collapsed, its skull crushed like an egg. Hay stared in shock. The elite drone's armor could withstand anti-tank weapons. Min had destroyed it with his bare hands. He didn't pause to explain. 3 more drones charged him. He moved between them like water flowing around stones. One drone lunged. He caught its claw mid-strike and used its own momentum to slam it into the wall. Another tried to bite him. He drove his fist through its mandible and into whatever passed for its brain. The third managed to rake its claws across his arm, tearing his shirt and drawing blood. Min didn't even flinch. He grabbed the drone by 2 of its legs and literally tore it in half. Armor, flesh, metal, all of it ripped apart like tissue paper. "Hey, get to the bridge," he said calmly, as if he wasn't standing in a pile of destroyed war machines. "How are you?" Later, more coming. He turned toward the breach where dozens more drones were crawling through. "I'll handle this. Protect your crew." He walked toward the swarm of drones like he was taking a casual stroll. Hay watched, unable to process what she was seeing. Her quiet, polite husband moved through the swarm drones like a force of nature. No wasted motion, no hesitation, just brutal, terrifying efficiency. A drone leaped at his throat. He caught it midair and threw it into 3 others, crushing them all against the bulkhead. Another tried to flank him. Without looking, he kicked backward, his foot punching through its armored chest. He wasn't just strong, he was fast, skilled, and absolutely lethal. "Commander," a surviving security officer grabbed her arm. "We need to go." Hay let herself be pulled away, but she couldn't stop looking back. Min was surrounded by 20 drones now. He should be dead. Instead, he was winning. She ran to the bridge, her mind spinning. When she burst through the door, whirled on her. "Commander, thank the stars where are your guards?" "Dead, but Min is holding deck 14. The human looked confused. "That's impossible, pull him back before." The tactical officer interrupted. "Sir, the swarm boarding party on deck 14 just stopped transmitting, all of them." "What?" 23 drones, all dead, no survivors. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. A full swarm boarding party could overwhelm an entire company of soldiers. Min had destroyed them all, alone. "Get me a visual on deck 14, Hay demanded. The screen flickered to life. Min stood in the corridor, surrounded by destroyed drones. He was checking the bodies of fallen crew members, searching for survivors. There was blood on his torn shirt, some of it his own, most of it not. He found a wounded engineer and gently lifted her, cradling her like she weighed nothing, and started carrying her toward the medical bay. He looked up at the camera as if he knew they were watching. His expression was calm. Not angry, not triumphant, just normal, like he just finished a regular day's work. Admiral sank into his command chair. "What is he?" Hay didn't have an answer. The battle wasn't over. More swarm ships were closing in. The eternal radiance was crippled. But then Min appeared on the bridge. He changed into clean clothes but still had a bandage on his arm from the drone's claw. "Admiral," he said politely, "permission to access the tactical station." Why?" "Because your ship is about to be destroyed, and I'd like to prevent that." Looked at Hay, she nodded. What did they have to lose? Gestured weakly at the station. "Fine, whatever." Min sat down and his hands flew across the controls. He pulled up battle data, analyzed swarm positions, calculated firing solutions, all within seconds. Then he started giving orders in perfect military code. Divert all power from non-essential systems to port shields. Rotate the ship 43 degrees on the vertical axis. Target the lead swarm vessel's sensor array, coordinates marked. Fire all port batteries in sequence, not simultaneously. The crew hesitated, looking at. The admiral nodded numbly. They followed Min's instructions. The eternal radiance lurched, shields brightening on one side. The angle change put them in an unexpected position. The swarm ships adjusted their approach, walking right into Min's trap. The sequential firing pattern created a wave effect that overwhelmed the lead ship's defenses. Its sensor array exploded. Now target its propulsion system. All starboard weapons, fire. The blinded swarm vessel couldn't dodge. The barrage tore through its engines. The ship went dead in space. Min continued calling out maneuvers. He wasn't fighting he was fighting like something else entirely. Aggressive, precise, ruthless. He used the eternal radiance's damaged state as an advantage, making the swarm think they were beaten before striking back. One by one, swarm ships fell. Some retreated. Within 30 minutes, the battle was over. The eternal radiance was damaged but alive. The refugee convoy was safe. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. They just watched a human civilian, a farmer, command their flagship better than any admiral they'd ever served under. Min stood and bowed politely too. "Thank you for letting me help, Admiral. I'll return to my quarters now." "Wait," Hay said, finding her voice. "How did you learn military code? How did you do any of this?" He looked at her, and for the first time she saw something ancient in his eyes, something that had been hiding behind his gentle smile all along. "I told you I read your manuals," he said quietly. "I also read your history, your tactics, your victories and your defeats. Humans learn fast, Hay. We have to. Our world taught us that if we don't adapt, we die. Every human child learns combat basics. Every human student studies strategy, not because we're warriors, because we're survivors. But the drones, you tore them apart with your hands." Min touched the bandage on his arm. "These drones are designed to fight species from normal worlds. Earth isn't a normal world. Our gravity is higher. Our predators are worse. Our diseases are deadlier. We evolved to survive all of that. To you, I'm strong. On Earth, I'm average." Lord's voice came over the comm. "This is impossible. Humans are supposed to be weak." Min's expression hardened. "No, Lord, we let you think we were weak. There's a difference." He turned to Hay. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you everything. Earth's government wanted to reveal ourselves slowly to avoid panic, but I think that time is over." He touched a control on his wrist device. A signal transmitted across space, faster than light, reaching all the way back to Earth. "What did you just do?" Hay whispered. "I told my people it's time to stop hiding," Min said. "The Empire asked for help. You're about to get it." The news spread across the Empire like wildfire. A human had single-handedly destroyed a swarm boarding party. A human had commanded the flagship better than their own admirals. Within hours, every news channel was showing the footage from Deck 14, men tearing through drones like they were made of paper. The reactions were mixed. Some were grateful, seeing humanity as unexpected saviors, but most were terrified. In the High Council chamber, the debate raged for 3 days straight. Hay stood before the assembled leaders, defending her husband while they shouted about threats and deception. "He saved our flagship," she argued. "He saved hundreds of lives." "He lied to us," Lord roared. "His entire species lied. They let us believe they were weak while hiding their true power. What else are they hiding?" Emperor Vex looked older than Hay had ever seen him. "Commander, we appreciate what your husband did, but you must understand our concern. If one human can do what we saw, what could an army of humans do? Could they conquer us?" "They don't want to conquer you. They want to help." "How do we know that?" Another council member interrupted. "They deceived us from the start. Why should we trust them now?" Before Hay could answer, the chamber doors burst open. Ambassador 1 walked in, flanked by 2 other humans. She hadn't been invited. She didn't care. "Because," one said calmly, "we've been protecting you for 5 years without asking for anything in return." The council erupted in protests. Emperor Vex raised his hand for silence. "Explain yourself, Ambassador." One pulled up a holographic display. It showed border systems, the ones that had mysteriously survived swarm attacks when they should have fallen. "These 17 systems should be dead. Your own projections said they couldn't be defended, yet they still stand. Do you know why?" No one answered. "Because human ships have been guarding them. Our stealth technology is centuries ahead of yours. You never saw us. We destroyed swarm scouting parties before they could report back. We disrupted their supply lines. We saved millions of lives, and you never knew we were there." She pulled up more data, combat logs, destroyed swarm vessels, all with timestamps going back 5 years. The evidence was undeniable. "We've been fighting your war," one continued, "while you dismissed us as primitives. We could have revealed ourselves at any time. We could have demanded payment, territory, or servitude. We did none of those things. We helped because it was the right thing to do." Lord shot to his feet. "More deception, more lies. You've had military forces in our space for years without permission. That's an act of war." "Then declare war," one said coldly. "See how that works out for you." The threat hung in the air. Everyone in that chamber had seen what one human could do. The idea of fighting millions of them was terrifying. Emperor Vex rubbed his temples. "What do you want, Ambassador?" "A real alliance. Not the marriage farce you set up. A partnership between equals, shared technology, joint command, an end to your empire's species hierarchy." "That's impossible," a council member scoffed. "Our entire society is built on that hierarchy." "Then rebuild it," one said simply, "or keep losing to the swarm, your choice." The council dismissed her, but the damage was done. Across the empire, the debate split into 2 factions. The moderates, led by Hay and her supporters, argued for accepting humanity's help. The led by Lord demanded that humanity be put in its place, by force if necessary. 3 days after one's appearance, Lord made his move. He had support from military and several powerful noble houses. They staged a coup, seizing control of the capital and imprisoning Emperor Vex. Their message was clear: humanity would submit or be destroyed. Forces surrounded the Eternal Radiance, demanding Min's surrender. Hay stood on the bridge, her hand on her weapon, ready to fight her own people if necessary. Min touched her shoulder gently. "Don't. They want to kill you, to study you like an animal." "I know, but if you fight them, you'll start a civil war. Your people don't need that on top of the swarm threat." "So what do we do?" Min smiled. "I challenge Lord to single combat, traditional honor duel. If I win, he accepts humanity as equals. Your people respect strength, right? I'll show them strength." Hay grabbed his arm. "Min isn't like those drones. He's a trained warrior. He's fought 100 duels. He's had genetic enhancements. He's scared," Min finished. "He's terrified of what humans represent. That's why he's doing this. But I won't fight him in anger. I'll fight him to prove a point." "What point?" "That strength without wisdom is just violence, and humanity left violence behind a long time ago." The duel was set for 3 days later, broadcast across the entire empire. Billions watched as the arena filled. Lord entered first, wearing full battle armor enhanced with power systems. He carried a plasma blade and an energy shield. He looked like a god of war. Min entered wearing simple clothes. No armor, no weapons, just him. The crowd murmured in confusion. Hay, watching from the VIP section, felt her heart racing. She tried to talk him out of this. She'd begged him to at least wear protection. He just smiled and told her to trust him. Laughed when he saw Min. "You mock me by coming unarmed." I didn't want an unfair advantage, Min replied. That made furious. He charged, plasma blade raised. He was fast, enhanced muscles and powered armor made him a blur. The blade came down where Min's head had been a second before. Min wasn't there anymore. He'd moved faster than his enhanced reflexes could track. He was suddenly behind, tapping the back of his armor gently. First opening, Min said calmly. Spun and swung. Min ducked under the blade and swept legs. The armored warrior crashed to the ground. Min stepped back, waiting for him to get up. Second opening. Roared and activated his full combat systems. Energy shields flared. Weapon systems came online. He unleashed everything: plasma blasts, energy waves, neural disruptors. The arena floor cracked and melted under the assault. Min moved through it all like he was dancing. Every attack missed by centimeters. He wasn't just fast, he knew where would strike before did. He'd studied combat techniques. He understood every move, every strategy. When weapons overheated from the continuous barrage, Min struck. Not with a killing blow, he didn't want to kill. He targeted specific points on his armor. 3 precise strikes. The power systems failed. The armor locked up, becoming a prison instead of a weapon. Couldn't move. He was trapped in his own suit, helpless. Min stood in front of him. I could have ended this in the first second, he said, loud enough for the cameras to catch. I could have killed you 12 different ways. I didn't. Do you know why? Said nothing, breathing hard inside his armor. Because humanity doesn't want to dominate you. We don't want to conquer you. We're offering our hand in friendship, not war. But we will not be dismissed. We will not be used. And we will not submit to anyone who thinks species hierarchy matters more than survival. He reached down and manually released armor locks. The suit opened, fell out, defeated but alive. The Void Swarm doesn't care about your empire's politics, Min continued, speaking to the cameras now. It doesn't care about hierarchy or tradition. It just consumes. If you want to survive, you need to accept that help comes in unexpected forms. Earth is offering that help. Take it or don't. But stop pretending you're superior to species you've never truly understood. He turned and walked toward Hay. The arena was silent. Then slowly some in the crowd began to applaud. Not everyone, many were still afraid, still angry, but enough that it mattered. Lay on the ground, staring at the sky. He trained his whole life to be the perfect warrior. He'd enhanced his body with the best technology the Empire could provide, and a human farmer had defeated him in under 3 minutes without breaking a sweat. He started laughing. It was the bitter laugh of someone whose entire worldview had just shattered. "We're such fools," he whispered to himself. "Such arrogant fools." In the VIP section, Emperor Vex, freed by supporters once they saw their leader fall, stood and addressed the crowd. His voice was heavy with emotion. "Lord's rebellion is over, the coup has failed, and I have been humbled. Ambassador 1, if your offer still stands, the Empire would be honored to form a true alliance with humanity, as equals." The crowd's reaction was mixed, cheers and protests in equal measure, but it was a start. Min reached Hay. She threw her arms around him, not caring who saw. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen," she whispered. "I had faith it would work," he replied, "and I had faith in you. In me. You've been fighting for this alliance from the start. You saw past the prejudice. That takes more courage than anything I did in that arena." Hay pulled back to look at him. This man who she'd dismissed, who she'd married for political convenience. He'd shown her people what they could be if they chose to be better. And somewhere along the way, she'd fallen in love with him. 2 weeks after the duel, the first human fleet arrived in space. They didn't hide this time. 30 ships appeared at the border, and every scanner in the sector detected them. The military went on alert until they saw the ship's formation, peaceful approach, weapons powered down, sending friendship signals. Hay stood on the bridge of the Eternal Radiance, watching the human vessels on the main screen. They were smaller than warships, sleeker, built with technologies she didn't fully understand. But there was something about them that radiated efficiency. Like everything about humans, they seemed simple until you looked closer. Admiral, who'd been remarkably quiet since Min's battle performance, cleared his throat. They're requesting permission to dock at the main station. Grant it, Hay said. She held the rank of fleet commander now, a promotion that came after the coup's failure. Many in the military still didn't trust humans, but they trusted her. Min stood beside her, watching his people's ships arrive. He'd been different since the duel. Not cold, but more open. He didn't hide his capabilities anymore. The crew had seen him help repair damaged sections of the ship, working in conditions that would kill most species. They'd seen him solve engineering problems in minutes that had stumped experts for weeks. The fear was still there, but respect was growing too. The human delegation was led by Admiral Dongmin, a woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She greeted Emperor Vex and the High Council with professional courtesy, not the submission they'd expected months ago. "We've reviewed your defensive positions," she said, pulling up tactical displays. "They're traditional. The swarm has adapted to traditional tactics. We need to change your entire approach." Some council members bristled at her blunt assessment. Others leaned forward, eager to learn. Over the next week, human military advisors spread throughout the fleet. They brought new strategies, new weapons, new ways of thinking. Some officers resisted, others embraced the change. Hay attended every meeting, learning everything she could. She watched human soldiers train with troops, saw the shock on her people's faces when they realized just how much stronger, faster, and tougher humans were. But she also saw humans teaching, not dominating, sharing knowledge, not hoarding it. One evening, she found Min in his garden, now expanded to take up an entire cargo bay. He was showing a group of young engineers how to grow food in space using Earth techniques. They listened with rapt attention. "You're good at this," she said after the engineers left. "Teaching?" he smiled. "I always wanted to be a teacher. That's why I went into agricultural engineering. Growing things, helping things flourish, it's what I love." "But you're also a warrior. I saw what you can do." Min's smile faded. "Every human can do what I do, Hay. We're taught combat and tactics from childhood because Earth is dangerous. But that's not who we are. We're builders, creators. We chose peace over conquest thousands of years ago. We also know how to protect what we've built." She sat beside him on a bench he'd installed. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For how we treated you, for assuming you were weak, for—" He took her hand. "You didn't know, and when you learned the truth, you stood by me. You fought your own people for an alliance you believed in. That takes real strength." The duel was more impressive. The duel was easy. Physical strength is simple. What you did, changing minds, fighting prejudice, that's hard. They sat in silence for a while, surrounded by growing plants. Tomatoes, peppers, and flowers that Min had brought from Earth. Life growing in the heart of a warship. "My people are scared," Hay admitted. "They see what humans can do and they wonder if we'll be conquered next." "We won't. That's not who we are anymore." "But you could, if you wanted to." Min stood and picked a ripe tomato, offering it to her. "We could, but power without purpose is just destruction. Humanity learned that the hard way. We had wars, terrible ones, back when we were young. We nearly destroyed ourselves. We chose to be better. That's the lesson we want to share, not our strength, but our choice to use it wisely." The next day, the joint human fleet launched its first offensive against the Void Swarm. Hay commanded a battle group with human advisors guiding their tactics. The difference was immediate and devastating for the swarm. Human strategies were aggressive but precise. They targeted swarm communication nodes, disrupted hive mind coordination, exploited weaknesses they had never noticed. Ships, following human guidance, fought with a confidence they'd lost years ago. The battle that would have cost a dozen ships and thousands of lives was won with minimal casualties. The swarm fleet retreated, something that rarely happened. On the bridge of the Eternal Radiance, the crew erupted in cheers, and human officers embraced. For the first time in decades, they'd won decisively. Admiral approached Hay, his expression complex. "Your husband was right about everything. Our tactics, our formations, our entire approach, it was all wrong." "Not wrong," Hay corrected, "just incomplete. We needed a new perspective." Word of the victory spread across the Empire. Public opinion began to shift. Yes, humans were powerful and terrifying, but they were also allies who delivered results. The protests against the alliance quieted. Support grew. Emperor Vex made it official. The Empire was reorganizing. No more species hierarchy. No more conquered peoples and subject races. Instead, the Galactic Commonwealth would be formed, with all species as equal members. Humanity would be founding partners. Not everyone was happy. Lord, released from prison as part of the reconciliation, met with Min one last time before accepting exile to a remote colony. "I underestimated you," said. "I underestimated your entire species." "You saw what you expected to see," Min replied. "We all do that sometimes." "Do you forgive me for trying to kill you?" "I was never angry. You were scared, and fear makes people do terrible things. But yes, I forgive you." Laughed bitterly. "You're a better person than I deserve. Before I leave, tell me, why did Earth stay hidden for so long? You could have joined the galaxy centuries ago." Min considered his answer carefully. "Because we learned that showing strength first makes people afraid. Showing kindness first makes people complacent. We wanted to be invited as equals, not feared as conquerors or dismissed as weaklings. It took time to find the right moment." "And marrying Commander Hay was that moment." "No, marrying her was a gift. The alliance was just a bonus." Over the following months, the war against the Void Swarm turned completely. Human technology combined with numbers created an unstoppable force. System after system was reclaimed. The Swarm, for the first time in its existence, began to retreat from an entire sector. Hay and Min's marriage became something real during those months. They fought together, strategized together, built a life together. The political arrangement became a genuine partnership. One night, lying in their quarters after a long day, Hay asked the question that had been bothering her. "When one first proposed this alliance, did Earth know I would fall in love with you?" Min laughed. "No, the original plan was a simple political marriage. I volunteered because I wanted to learn about your culture. Falling in love with you was unexpected, beautiful but unexpected. I thought I was marrying a weak farmer." "You married a farmer who happens to be strong. There's a difference." She rolled over to look at him. "What happens when the war ends?" "We build. Humans are good at building, are good at organizing. Together, we could create something amazing. A true commonwealth. A galaxy where species aren't ranked by power but valued for what they contribute. Earth has technology, have administrative experience. Other species have their own strengths. Everyone equal, everyone necessary." It sounded like a dream, but Hay had learned that humans specialized in making impossible things real. The final assault on the Swarm's core systems came a year after Min's arrival. The combined fleet, human, and now 6 other species who joined the Commonwealth, struck at the Swarm's hive clusters. The battle was fierce, but the outcome was never in doubt. When the last hive fell, Hay stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Radiance, watching the fleet celebrate. Human ships flew alongside cruisers. Crews that had once been enemies now worked as seamless teams. Min joined her, carrying 2 cups of tea he'd grown and prepared himself. They toasted to victory, to alliance, to the future. "You changed everything," Hay said. "One person changed an entire empire." "I was just the catalyst. You and others like you did the real work. You chose to see past prejudice. You chose to be better. We married you to gain a weapon. Instead, we gained a teacher. Min smiled. And I came here thinking I'd just be learning about alien cultures. Instead, I found a partner, a people worth fighting for, and a home. Below them, crews were already planning reconstruction efforts. Human engineers worked with architects to rebuild destroyed worlds. Agricultural specialists shared Earth's techniques for growing food in harsh conditions. Teachers began cultural exchange programs. The Commonwealth was being born from the ashes of war, stronger because it valued cooperation over domination. Ambassador once sent a message that evening, meant for Min but shared with He. Earth is proud of what you've accomplished. You proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't our bodies or our technology, it's our ability to see potential in others and help them reach it. Come home when you're ready, or stay and keep building. Either way, you've done more than anyone hoped. Min deleted the message and turned to his wife. I'm already home. Years later, historians would debate the moment when everything changed. Some said it was the duel. Others pointed to the first joint victory against the swarm. A few argued it was the moment Min crushed that ceremonial stone he'd refused at his wedding. A private moment where he showed He he'd always been capable, just choosing not to show off. But He knew the truth. The real moment of change was when the Empire made a desperate choice to marry their commander to a human for peace, expecting a subordinate and getting a partner instead. They'd tried to gain power and received wisdom. They'd sought to dominate and learned to cooperate. The backfire hadn't been that Min was strong. It was that he showed them strength without arrogance was possible. Power without dominance existed. And sometimes, the greatest force in the galaxy wasn't military might but the choice to use that might wisely. In his garden, now a permanent fixture on every Commonwealth ship, Min tended his plants and taught anyone who wanted to learn. A quiet farmer who'd helped reshape the galaxy, one seed at a time. And beside him always was He, the warrior who'd learned that true strength wasn't about who you could defeat, but about who you chose to stand with.